Hello everyone and welcome to the Brain Attack music channel. If you'd like to subscribe, please click on the subscribe link below. It doesn't cost anything, it's free of charge. And if you want to be notified about new videos that I post, then please click on the bell icon and you'll receive a notification. In a previous video I talked about my 5 missing days between having my stroke. That was the last thing I remember. The next thing I remember is waking up in neurosurgery. 5 days in between when I went downhill, had emergency brain surgery, went into ICU and so on. And I mentioned at the end of that video that I wanted to talk about the mental transition that you have to make from being day one, your normal self, doing your normal things, feeling how you feel normally, to the next day, post-stroke, post-brain injury, when the world has changed. And this is equally applicable for the survivors themselves as it is for their family, because I try and give you an idea about what's going on in here for the survivor and the impact that that may have on friends and particularly family and loved ones, partners and so on. So, in my case, I was aware that something had gone on. If you watch the earlier videos, you'll see all about my stroke experience. But being taken to hospital in the ambulance, I was aware that I'd probably had a stroke, whatever that was, because I had no idea at that time what that was. But it was serious enough to get blues and twos and taken to hospital. Pretty much the next thing I remember after my hallucinatory experiences, which again, look at some of the earlier videos and you'll find out about that. But after my hallucinatory experiences, when I eventually worked out, okay, I'm in a hospital ward, okay, we've got tubes coming out of me all over the place, there's got a catheter fitted, etc., etc. So that would be point 2. Point 1 is I'm unwell, something's happening, I'm in an ambulance. Point 2, I work out that I'm in hospital and I've got tubes coming in and out of me all over the place. So first of all, from my point of view, that was very confusing. I wasn't frightened. I had no fear. I was just befuddled, confused, didn't know what the hell was going on. Now, of course, from everybody else's point of view, family, my wife, staff on the ward, they know what's happened. And particularly the staff on the ward and people who may visit to see you, consultants, physiotherapists, ophthalmologists, whoever, they know what the score is. You don't. So they're all going about their business. I'm talking about the staff in the hospital now, and talking to you with the knowledge of what's happened. And of course, bless them, they talk to you as though you know what's happened, but you don't. So I remember a litany of people, no idea who they were. And of course, most of the time they don't bother to introduce themselves. If they do introduce themselves, you can't remember anyway, because you've just had your brain kicked in. But I remember people would drop by. Hi, yeah, hello, who the hell's this? Now I want to talk to you about your XYZ and your ABC, and they'd hit you with a load of jargon and you'd kind of like, yep, what? I don't understand. So there's confusion, a lot of confusion. So if you're a family member, a partner, a relative of somebody who's had a brain injury, had a stroke, whatever, and you're visiting them in hospital, just try and dial back, if you can, the kind of questions and all the rest of it, because things are happening in here, but very, very slowly. Remember, they've had their head kicked in. Now, if they were sitting there in bed with bruises everywhere and cuts and abrasions and all the rest of it, and looked like they'd had their head kicked in, you'd probably treat them in a certain way. But because they look reasonably normal, apart from the tubes and whatever, but because they look reasonably normal, you think therefore they're reasonably normal. But inside they're not. They are confused. They are possibly frightened. Luckily I wasn't, but they're possibly frightened. And they're trying to work out just what is going on. Because 5 minutes ago, they were okay. That's how it felt in my mind. I went from feeling perfectly okay, going to bed, and waking up not feeling very okay, and what felt like half an hour later in the back of an ambulance. Blues and twos going, on my way to hospital, strapped into a wheelchair. Huh? What's going on? And then, what seemed like another 5 minutes later, waking up in a hospital bed with tubes everywhere, machines beeping at me, and who's that sitting over there in that bed? He doesn't look too well. And there's somebody else over there and somebody else there. There were 3 other guys in the ward that I was in. Staff scurrying about, curtains being pulled, curtains being opened. What is going on? It's literally like being, I was going to say, it's literally like being beamed in a Star Trek transporter, which doesn't exist. So how can it be literal? There you go, work that one out. But I imagine it's like being in some kind of Star Trek transporter and being taken from point A to point B, and it's completely different, but it happens fairly quickly. So expect your loved one to be confused. Expect them to be slow because they've had their head kicked in. So their mental processing will be slower, added to the confusion. So they will appear strange. They may have problems with their speech. They may have problems with their eyesight. They may have problems with their coordination. They may not be able to pick things up. All of that can change. But the initial shock, I think, for relatives seeing their loved one in hospital is hard. It's a tough one to come to terms with. And all you want as a relative is to know that they're okay and talk to them and encourage them and ask some questions and all the rest of it. And they're going, oh, just leave me alone, I can't, my head, oh, grief. I remember a guy on my right in hospital, bless him, he lost the power of speech. So his wife was there, and how are you? How did you feel? What happened here? What happened? He's trying to. He can't communicate. He can understand, but he can't communicate. And I could sense when she was visiting. I could sense in him that this is not good. He doesn't like the kind of. It wasn't an interrogation, so I used that word inadvisedly. But she was obviously very concerned, bless her, and quite understandably so. And just keen to know that he was okay in there somewhere. And I had to call over and say, oh, look, just to let you know, just try if you can sort of back off a little bit, because it's too much for him to cope with. He's trying to process all this information, and it's just too much. Because that's how it is for me. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I don't know what the prognosis is. Nobody can really tell me, because obviously it's a brain injury and people don't know, is what I now know. But at the time, you're wanting people to say to you, oh, this is going to happen, and then this will happen, and then that, and then you can go home and you'll be fine. But it's not like that. We don't know. The honest medical professional will say, don't know actually. It's brain injury, brain damage. Who knows? We have a rough idea, this and this and this, but we don't really know. So there's a lot of confusion going on. And for me, I found that I had no grip in my left hand. I tried to pull my bed sheet up and I couldn't grip it. So I'm there thinking, as a drummer, I'm thinking, How the hell am I going to hold a drumstick? I can't. How am I going to get back to work? I need to get back to work. There's no money. All the while I'm in this hospital bed, there's no money coming. I got to get back to work. I got to get back to work. Wonder when I can get out, because I need to get back to work. This from a man who's just had emergency brain surgery, had part of his skull removed. Has got 5, probably maybe 6 tubes coming in and out, IVs, catheters. Got But all I could think about was back home at the ranch. There's things that I need to do. Oh, I need to send an email to such and such. Oh, I need to ring. Oh, there's got that gig coming. I don't know if I can do that gig. I better let Barry know I probably can't do that gig now. So inside your loved one's head, as best as they are able, it's normal, right? The normal thought processes are probably going on. Oh, did we turn the gas off? Did I turn that light off? Have I paid the electricity bill? All, general life stuff that would be going on in their head prior to the event. Post the event, they're obviously a completely changed person. They have a brain injury. It's serious. But a lot of their thoughts will be normal thoughts, because you don't suddenly go from normal thoughts to considering your rehabilitation and how long is that going to take. And I really must work on my coordination and my balance, because I know about cerebral stroke, and I had no idea what the cerebellum did. The fact that I'd had a cerebral stroke, and consultants would come to me and say, "Oh yes, you're the guy that's had the cerebral stroke, aren't you?" So, yeah. And in my head I'm thinking, whatever that is, because you can't process everything that people are telling you. It's bad enough if you haven't had your head kicked in trying to understand what a medical professional is saying to you, because they do tend to use a bit of jargon. And it just so happens I have some for you. Hold on a tick, I'll go away and get it. So here we are. I've got in front of me here my discharge notes from the hospital. I think it's written in English, not too sure. So, in no particular order, I'll just read some of it to you, okay? There is evidence of an acute infarct involving the left lateral medulla, the left cerebellar hemisphere, and the left side of the vermis. There is associated mass effect with effacement and displacement of the fourth ventricle and also of the medulla. The supratentorical... I don't think that's pronounced correctly, hold on. The supratentorial ventricles currently retain normal configuration. The supratentorial ventricles. A bit later on examination, he had poor coordination in the left upper and lower limbs with dysdiadochokinesis and nystagmus on the right lateral gaze. Oh, I'm gazing to the right, laterally. He underwent neurosurgical decompression of his posterior cranial fossa and was subsequently monitored on the neurosurgical critical care unit, intubated for 1 day with extraventricular drain. Yeah, so that's confusing enough now, okay? So when the consultants are coming around and they're talking like that, and you're not really in the right state to say, excuse me, I didn't quite understand what you said. Could you, with the posterior, the ventricular, what, you kind of, yeah, whatever, hit me with some more oromorph, man. Is how it is. So the confusion really, really reigns. I'd love now to meet some of these guys and talk to them. Because as a drummer, right, if I started talking to these guys and started talking about, well, my paradiddle flam triplet's not quite as positive. I'm okay on the triple, but the double's not quite so good. Single's okay. Oh, well, you don't understand what I'm talking about? Well, you see, it's the drum rudiments. So you got your single, triple, double paradiddles. You got your flam ratamacues. What, you're not understanding me? Oh, okay. I jest, obviously, but you know, it's like if you talk to somebody who knows about computers and you don't know about computers. It's not straightforward to understand. So I found it incredibly difficult to work out why I had all these tubes coming in and out of me until I needed to go to the toilet. And then the guy went and got the commode. That's another video, quite an amusing one. And took me to the toilet, because it's kind of like, oh, I can't walk. I didn't know that lying in bed with 6 or 7 tubes coming in and out of me. Didn't know that. I just assumed I'd hop out of bed, move the tubes to one side, leg it to the toilet. But no, I needed to be wheeled to the toilet and wheeled back again because I couldn't walk. That was an interesting experience, trying to get your head around the I can't walk. The room is flying around me like some kind of demented roundabout, and I can't walk. So just try and recognise that for your loved one, the brain injury survivor, the stroke survivor, they are desperately trying to get up to speed with what's happened, why they are where they are, and why everything is happening around them that is happening around them. You will know a lot more about them and their situation than they will. And just, you know, try and bear in mind that you need to drip feed information in, because everything that happens in the post-stroke world happens really, really slowly. Like a glacier moving down a valley. It moves a few inches a year, a few centimetres a year, that sort of thing. It's very slow. And that's how it is in your loved one's brain at the moment. If they're still in hospital, still in the early stages of recovery, very slow. Anyway, take care. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.